going to go over some aspects of current Naomi 2 emulation on Flycast. These dev builds are basically brand new. Improvements are being made all the time, but as of January 27th, this is where the project is right now. And I think it's looking pretty good for how early in production Naomi 2 emulation is on Flycast. We really only got our first taste of Naomi 2 games only a couple weeks from the date of this video. So I would expect to see more in the future. So we're just going to go over the 3 Virtua Fighter 4 titles on Naomi 2, where they are right now, and what you can expect from them in the future. For one, if you want to start playing multiplayer, I recommend you go to the game test menu first. You do this by pressing the test button. You can bind in Flycast. Just go into the Flycast menu, go to settings, go to controls, find whatever your main controller is, or you could just do it on your keyboard. And you're going to need to make sure arcade controls are on so that these coin, service, and test controls are actually available to use. Once you have those bound, go here to the game test menu and scroll to game assignments and make sure stage select is on selective. When it's on selective, you can select any of the stages in the game. It will not boot you into a random one if you are just doing versus mode. Since rollback has not been added to the Naomi 2 builds, you're going to need a playthrough parsec. There's plenty of tutorials on how to set up parsec, so I won't actually go over it here, but you are going to need a central server to play on. Good news is that there are plenty of Discord servers out there that have the option to play on their own server. The Virtua Fighter server is one of them. The game doesn't look truly amazing right now. There are still plenty of graphical improvements that need to be made before this can be considered a public build. While the builds are technically public, these are still very much in development. So don't expect the quality to stop here. It's going to get better over time. Also something to note that you will need to have per pixel rendering turned on for some of the stages in order to have a smooth and playable frame rate, which is going to be locked at 60 frames a second. Anything lower than that, you're going to have audio spattering, you're going to have some dropped inputs. It's not going to be a very pleasant experience, and it's only going to get worse when rollback gets implemented. For example, here on the city stage, with per triangle rendering, you'll notice that there's some extra frame drops. It's dipping down to like 49, 54, things like that. Well, that's not that bad, you may say. Significant frame drop there. And then it just gets even worse. When we have per pixel shading, transparency settings on, the stage starts to run a lot better. You can see it's locked to a consistent 59.9. And when I do a cinematic throw, the game does not drop in frame rate whatsoever, which is really nice. Some stages, however, do not have any current fixes at the moment for this game. For example, the harbor stage and similar water stages look like this, which isn't very pretty, and it also gets in the way of gameplay. It only gets worse with per triangle rendering on, since part of the health bar can be hidden behind objects, which makes it really hard to see who's winning and what the timer is and how many rounds someone has won. So no matter what, you're probably going to want per pixel shading on. Virtua Fighter 4 Vanilla is also available on cart, which is nice since you don't have to wait for the game to load everything into memory from the GD-ROM, quote-unquote. as the process is for the game. At least that's how it is on DIMM. There's a reason why I don't know yet, and I'll go into detail a little later, but I don't know why you'd want to play VF4 Vanilla other than maybe Vanessa having her extra offensive in movesets. But to be fair, Go and Brad are kind of underpowered in Evo, so I guess it would make sense why you wouldn't want to play Evo sometimes, just to have a more stripped down experience. The soundtrack's also better, so I guess there's that. But something to be aware of is that this game does run worse than Evo. So if you have a low-end machine, I just recommend you stick to that game. Some of the issues just are not cleaned up, although Shrine, for some reason, seems to work just fine, even though in Evo, you're going to get the same reflections issue on a stage like Harbor. I would show you how Final Tuned is running, however, I could not get it to work for the life of me. Whenever I launch it, get this error, and even when I was getting it launched before, it comes up with a different error that you can see right here. It'll give you this error, and it means that your firmware on your DIMMs is not upgraded. Ultimately, without Flying Ahead's contribution to the emulation community, I don't think we would be seeing this whatsoever. It's nice to finally get Virtua Fighter 4 and all the other Naomi 2 games out of DIMM hell. That way we can start playing them once again. And even better, we're going to get rollback, which I think will do a great amount for the Virtua Fighter community. After all, Virtua Fighter 5 still doesn't have rollback of any kind, even on PS4. And it's not likely to come to PC anytime soon, even if Sega's trying to push for PC releases. So, I'll keep you guys updated on any progress that's happening on Naomi 2 emulation. And yeah, just stay tuned. Tuned. Isn't that funny? Come on, tell me it was funny. Fucking hell. Come on. Fine. Go doesn't find it funny.